Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to today's video. Hope you guys are having a great day today. So today's video is not a very exciting one, at least it's not for me, but I have been requested to do this video so many times, so I thought before 2018 finishes I should do this video. So today we are going to talk about powders and I'm going to go through the powders which I have used so far and which ones I think are good and which ones are okay, and I will go through both loose powders and compact powders. I have mainly been requested for compact powders, so I will focus on that first and then we'll go on to loose powders. So without much further ado, let's get quickly started with today's video. Pressed powders are really effective in setting the makeup and for general day-to-day use they are really nice. Personally, I prefer pressed powders which do not have a lot of coverage. I usually wear some kind of foundation or BB cream, light coverage BB cream on a day-to-day basis, so I don't expect a lot of coverage from my pressed powders. But if you want a lot of coverage from pressed powders, then you can look into powder foundations and stuff like that. Today we are not going to talk about powder foundations, and currently I don't think I have a powder foundation in my collection. So we are talking just about pressed powders which have just like a tiny bit of coverage, not much. My favorite ones, my favorite pressed powder, if I have to say, there are top three. First one is this one from Wet n Wild. You guys probably have heard me talk about this many times. Personally, I have dry skin and I prefer my pressed powders to have a little bit of something. It should not be completely matte. I want them to be a little bit dewy. So the Wet n Wild Photofocus powder is really good for that. So as you can see, I have hit like a giant pan on this, and I'm thinking of just chucking this one because I'm not able to get the product I want from this. So I have actually purchased a newer one. Now the cap of this one is a little loose, so I have to be a little careful. The previous Wet n Wild shade was tan beige and recently I've got the shade golden tan. I think if you're close to my skin tone, you can use either of them, whichever is available. Last time when I had purchased, they did not have golden tan, so I had bought tan beige, which works fine as well. But if you're close to my skin tone, I would say just go for golden tan if they have it available. So this is how golden tan looks like. It's really smooth and a very beautiful powder. With a nice powder brush, you can apply it all over your face and it will give a nice luminosity. So I will recommend this powder for those of you who have dry skin and looking for a very natural powder but with a little bit of something, little bit of dewiness. So this is one of my favorite powders, the Wet n Wild one. Next powder which I like, which is not that dewy, it's more of a skin-like finish, almost towards the matte finish side, is the LA Girl Pro Matte. Now this is also, as you can see, I've hit a giant pan. Powders are something which we obviously use on a day-to-day basis, so it's very easy to hit pan on this. I have the shade Soft Honey in the LA Girl one and it matches me pretty well. This one also I use all over the face without any problem. This doesn't give that much of a glow or dewiness, it gives a very nice natural finish. This one also doesn't have a lot of coverage, but it's not like it doesn't have any coverage, and set the face very nicely. So this one also is one of my favorites. You can go for this one if you have any kind of skin type, oily, combo or dry. I think this one will work for you. And another powder which is one of my other favorites is this one from the brand ZA, Z-A-Z-A. Now this one is available here in Singapore and Southeast Asia. So this is how the powder looks like. It's called the Skin Beauty Face Powder number 3. So I have the shade 3, and this one also I can use for all over the face. This one is also not completely matte or completely dewy. It also has something extra to it. Whenever I apply, it doesn't look flat out matte. This is also a very soft powder, and it also has a pretty nice coverage. It is not high coverage by any means, but in comparison with the other powders which I have, it has a pretty nice coverage. So this one also, if you're here in Singapore or if you visit any of the other Southeast Asian countries, you can look at this powder. This is available at the drugstore. So most of the products which I'm showing you are drugstore. All the setting powders I usually prefer buying drugstore because setting powders are something which we use daily and I prefer it to be something affordable. So those were the three of my top most favorite powders which I like for my entire face. Now next, what I'm going to share with you are powders which are kind of okay. Like if I have to repurchase again, then I may think about it, because these are not like perfect for my skin type, but the powders on their own, they're pretty good. So the first one is the Freedom pressed powder, is the shade Translucent. This is also a really nice powder, very smooth and soft. It also doesn't have a lot of coverage. It's a translucent powder, but it's very nice for setting the face if you are close to this skin type. And for me, I use this for setting underneath the eyes. So if I wear this powder on my face, it's a little bit light for me and it kind of makes my skin look weird. But there's an excellent powder for underneath the eyes, really good, and for that purpose I like this, and the color of it is also really nice for underneath the eyes. It helps to brighten that area a little bit. But for my entire face, I don't really use this powder. The next powder which I have is the Rimmel Stay Matte powder, and I have the shade Warm Honey. Now this one I can use for my entire face without much problem, but I feel like this is not as soft as the other powders. The other powders, the first three powders which I showed you, are more softer and they're easy to blend on my skin. And there's also matte powder. It's a pretty matte powder. If you want day long matte effect on your skin, then this is a really good one. So I think this is very good for oily skin type, combo skin type. If you want to use something for your entire face or even underneath the eyes, this will be a good powder. But for me, I think since I have dry skin, I am not that fond of this powder because it makes my face look very matte. So there are days when I use this, but it's not one of my preferred powders. Next we have a powder from NYKAA, and this is their SKINgenius powder. I forgot the name, it is not written here. I think it's the SKINgenius powder. It's in the shade Warm Honey. On this one also I have hit pan, and I think I have this in my project pan. So this is how the powder looks like. This also is really nice for dry skin. This has something extra. It is not completely matte. It is a little bit on the dewy side, but it's not too much. I don't know how to explain it, as in it's not completely matte. It looks very natural skin like. It gives a subtle glow on the skin. So I really do like this powder. Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't, depending on my skin tone. So currently this powder is too light for me, and I use this for underneath the eyes, setting the concealer, the highlighted parts of my face. For the entire face I cannot use this because currently it is too light. So if you're close to my skin tone, I think you have to find a better shade match for this. I don't know if they have a shade which is deeper than this. You might have to check the NYKAA website. But if you have dry skin, I think you might really like this powder. It has a tiny bit of coverage, very soft, smooth, goes really nicely on the face, and it gives a slight radiance to the face. So this one is the NYKAA SKINgenius powder. Okay, next I also have a powder from Makeup Forever. This is their Pro Finish powder, and I have the shade 127. I purchased this a long time back, and this also I feel is a little bit light for me. I can use a light dusting of it on my face. It doesn't look cakey or something like that. But if I use too much, then it can give me like a white cast. So that's why this powder also I use for underneath the eyes. This is also a more natural skin-like finish. It doesn't have any radiance or dewy effect to it. But this is also really good powder. It sets the makeup and sets the under eyes really well, and it's pretty long lasting on the skin as well. So I used to once upon a time really love this powder, but currently I'm just trying to finish it off, and if I have to purchase it, I will probably purchase in a different shade. The next powder which I have is also high-end, and this is also one of my favorites. It works great for my skin type and skin tone. This is the Urban Decay Naked Skin Powder, and it's in the shade medium dark, and this powder matches my skin tone really nicely. The packaging of it is just so beautiful. You have a puff underneath, and you get this much amount of product, and I use it very sparingly because it's pretty expensive. So that's why I don't reach for it very often. I usually take this with me for travel because it has a sponge underneath, and it comes in a cute pouch like this, which I just put in my bag, and just if I have to touch up sometime, then I use this powder to touch it up. So this powder I can completely use everywhere on my face. It doesn't look ashy, or it doesn't give me a white cast. So this powder works on my skin tone great. This is also not a very dewy powder. It also has more like a skin-like finish. So I think this powder will also be great for many skin types. And this is such a soft powder. I have not used this that amount of times, but still I have got such a big dent right here. So it's a really soft powder, and it just evenly blends out the complexion, and it has a little bit of coverage as well. So it's a great powder. It's more of like a finishing powder. That's what it says. It's a pressed finishing powder. So you can use this to finish up your face or use it for touching up your makeup. So that's why I like it. Next I have two pressed powders which I am not that big a fan of. The first one is from theBalm. This is the PhotoBalm, and it is their powder foundation, and I don't think this one has a lot of coverage. It's a like a very light coverage powder foundation, and this one may feel like it will work for my skin tone, but it doesn't. It's a little bit dark for me, and I don't know how to make powder foundations work for skin tone. I can make deeper foundations work by mixing lighter foundation. I don't know how to make this one work. So this one is actually sitting just like that. I'm not using it that much. Maybe if I am tan someday, more tanner than this, maybe I can use this. I can actually use a light dusting of this powder. Just take a light powder brush and dust on my entire face and neck. It works, but if I apply too much of it, or if I try to build up the coverage, then this one gets a little bit dark on my skin tone. So that's why I am not able to use it. The powder as a whole is pretty okay. It says it's talc free, so that's great if someone is sensitive to talc. And the powder itself is quite smooth, and it blends well. It doesn't have a dewy finish or anything. It's a pretty matte powder. So that's another reason probably I don't like it. If you have oily skin, if you have combo skin, then probably you can try this powder, but for me it's not one of my favorites. A, because of the type of the powder, and B, because of the tone of the powder. So this is the balm, PhotoBalm. And the next powder and the last pressed powder which I have is from Kiko Milano, and this is their color correction powder. This is not exactly a powder, but it's more of a color correcting powder. I recently got this from India. I have shown you guys in my haul, and I had tried this in one of the get ready with me's, and I still have the same feelings about this powder. It doesn't work on my skin tone. I think this, if you are extremely fair, it might work on you, but it doesn't work on my skin tone. So I have no idea if this works or not. If I apply this on my skin tone, my skin looks very ashy. So this is basically a color correcting powder. You have green, orange, yellow and blue over here. So you're supposed to swirl your brush and then apply it on your face after you're done with the makeup, and it's going to even your complexion and stuff like that. I thought this powder was actually very magical, and I think it said that it will work on all skin tones, but yeah, on my skin tone it doesn't work, and maybe I don't know how to use it. But this is quite a disappointing product for me, because I was really excited. I love the concept behind it, but unfortunately it doesn't work on my skin tone. So those were all the pressed powders. Now I will quickly touch upon the loose powders as well, because I have them right in front of me, and why not? So if you guys are interested, then just please continue watching. Loose powders are very useful for setting your makeup, your foundation, concealer. They help to set them very nicely. They will not budge. Even if you are in some hot, humid conditions, they will help your foundation and concealer to stay in place. They will not break apart on your face. So I think setting the foundation is really important, but depends on the foundation also. Nowadays there are a lot of matte foundations which do not feel that tacky, and they set themselves on the skin, so you may not need to set them. But then there are some foundations which are very dewy and they have a lot of tackiness and slip to them. Then those foundations you need to set so that they wear really nicely for a long time. So the first powder which I purchased was the RCMA No Color powder. This was the second loose powder I purchased, sorry. The first one I will talk about in a little while. So this was quite popular a few years back, like couple of years back. I think Kathleen Lights made this powder popular, and it's basically a no color powder. It doesn't have any pigment to it, but it's supposed to give your it's supposed to set your face like flawlessly. And it's very true. It's a very finely milled powder. I hate the packaging, but the quality of the powder is really good. It's extremely finely milled. One of the most finely milled powders I have seen, and it truly doesn't have any color. But I use this only for setting underneath the eyes. It just makes your under eye just smooth. Like you will not see any line, nothing. It just smoothens that area so beautifully. So I love this for the under eyes, but I don't use it for my entire face. For my entire face, I will usually use some kind of a pressed powder, because this one, if I use too much on my entire face, there is a tendency for this one to give me a white cast. Now there is no flashback or anything like that, but it will give my face that white ashy look. So if I use a little bit, it's fine, but if I use too much, then it gives me that ashy look. So that's why I prefer to use my Wet n Wild or the other pressed powders which I have to set my face. So this one I will recommend for underneath the eyes. If you're close to my skin tone, I will not really recommend this for the entire face, but if you're fair to medium, then probably you can use this for your entire face as well. The next powder which I have is the cult classic Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder, and this was the first powder which I purchased. This one you can say that YouTube made me buy it. I remember walking into Sephora and just buying this powder and coming out. So I was so smitten by all the great reviews I saw on YouTube that I thought, what magical powder is that, and I need to have it. So I bought this, but initially I was not really sure how to use it. I think over the years I have started to like this powder even more. I love this powder for my underneath the eyes. I think the most of the loose powders I use for underneath the eyes to set my concealer, and it gives a very smooth appearance in that area. So that's why I like this powder. My powder packaging is a little broken, so I have somehow taped it up, but I still have a lot of powder left. So this is a pretty expensive product, but it will last you a very long time. I sometimes use this for my entire face as well, and it doesn't look cakey, or it doesn't look very matte. It just sets the face very nicely. It doesn't look ashy or anything like that. Since it's a translucent powder, it doesn't have any kind of color, so it sets my entire face nicely as well. So this powder also, I think many skin types will be able to use. It has been working great for me, so I don't have any complaints. The next is the Hourglass Veil Translucent Setting Powder. I have recently spoken about this, and I purchased this powder after seeing some very good reviews. Plus I was really interested in trying this since it came out. So I purchased this because the Laura Mercier one, it's very good, but it's not like it will give you a nice glow, or it's not a luminous powder. This one said it's a luminous powder, and that's why I wanted to have it. So this powder I will totally recommend for dry skin, combo oily skin. I'm not really sure if you'll have to watch other reviews, because it is a pretty glowy powder. This one I can use underneath the eyes or entire face. It sets everything very beautifully. So this is the color of the powder. It has a slight tint to it, and if you're close to my skin tone, you may feel like it will give you a white cast, but it doesn't. It blends really beautifully. It just blends into the skin. So it has been working out great for me, and it gives the skin a very nice glow. Okay, so we are down to the last powder for today, and this is the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder. I think it has come out a year back or so in the US, but it has started to get a little popularized right now, and it's available in Singapore with some resellers, although it is not yet available at the drugstore here. So I have two shades here. I have the shade Medium Deep, and I have the shade Deep. So this is the shade Deep, and this is the shade Medium Deep. I purchased the shade Deep first, that thinking it will be a good match for me, but the shade Deep is a tad bit deep for me, so this one doesn't go well with my skin tone. Like if I have to set my entire face, my face looks a little bit dark. So I went for Medium Deep, and Medium Deep is perfect for me. So if you're close to my skin tone, go for Medium Deep rather than Deep. This powder I am just completely in love with. It's such a finely milled powder, and this is great for underneath the eyes and your entire face. I use this one for my entire face as well, because the shade is a really nice match for me, so I don't have to be that careful. I can just like go crazy with it, and still it will look really nice. The powder is very finely milled as well. It just blends with the skin, very easy to blend, sets the makeup beautifully. I used to love the Maybelline Fit Me powder, one which was a little bit on the glowy side. This one is not glowy though, it is more of a natural finish powder. It's not matte either, and you get quite a lot of product. It will last you a long time, and it's affordable. So I think for loose powder, if I have to recommend a product for every kind of skin type, I think the Maybelline Fit Me powder, you can give it a try. So with that, I have come to the end of my video today. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you have any questions regarding any of the powders, then just do let me know. If you like this video, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and if you're watching me for the first time, I really hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you again really soon in my next video. Bye.